Hi, everybody. Welcome to another podcast. And on the show today, I've got a gentleman called Garrey Ashton. Now, I met Garrey. Well, first, let me introduce you. Welcome, Garrey.
Hi, Andy. Hi, everybody.
How you doing, mate? All right?
Yeah, really well, really well.
Good. So I met Garrey only about, we made contact probably, 6 weeks ago, was it, Garrey, roughly?
Well, the original contact was back in beginning of February.
Or was it? It was, but I only met you in person probably just a few weeks ago. You came and helped out on a film we were working on. But before we talk about that, and obviously the filmmaking side of things, and you know what you're thinking about that, as obviously I think you're fairly new to it, is Garrey is known as, or was known as, whether he's still known as, I don't know, the most unluckiest man in the world, which is quite a title, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. It wasn't one that I'd asked for, and and I'm quite self-deprecating in a fun sort of way, really. But it stemmed from I was on a stag do. My cousin Lewis Ashton. It was a stag do 10 years ago, and I'm very spontaneous in my nature. Very easily talked into anything really. If it's going to raise a smile, just do it. Like, you know, it doesn't matter. As long as there's no major impact, and you're not rude or immoral. If you know what I mean, just do it. And so on this stag do, I took a friend back to the hotel. I was very drunk, very drunk. However, when I was dealing with the press and the media, I'd only had a couple of pints, right? Because like drunk man falls off a cliff. It's not a story, but man that's only had 2 pints falls 100 foot off a cliff. And as the cliff where I'd fallen in Newquay, there was no stairs, there was no kind of windy path. The tide was coming in. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. I got knocked out. So it was about 2 in the morning, Andy. There was a point to me mentioning this. It was about 2 in the morning. I didn't realise I was on the edge of a cliff. I thought I was sea level. And next thing you know, I've fallen 100 foot down onto the beach below. And it was a sheer drop to the bottom. It wasn't like a tumble down. Yeah, I got knocked out. So I got woken up with the tide coming in. There was no method of escape. There was no method of me getting out of the situation that I was in other than to climb back up the cliff. So I had to climb back up the cliff. I had no shoes on. I'm just grabbing hold of nettles and everything. But what compounds the story is that I've been run over twice. I've been electrocuted a couple of times. I've broke my neck as well at work once. And the story got to our local newspaper where I was living at the time in Camberley in Surrey, and I was front page of the local newspaper. It was amazing. Next thing you know, it's kind of snowballed upwards from there. Local news, Meridian News. Then I'm in this all of the national newspapers. They're fabricating stories about me. I had one guy from the Sport, Andy. He basically I jokingly said to him, I said, since I've been in the news and I've had a lot of interest from girls and that. He went, really? I went, no, I'm only joking. He went, no, that's great. He said, that's a great story, Garrey. If you want to go with that story, we can get you front page of the Sport with a lot of birds with their tits hanging out around your face and that. And I said, you absolutely off your tits? I said, I've got a job. I can't be on the front page of the Sport. But it was on News at 10. The next thing you know, I've been invited onto an Alan Carr. So I was on Alan Carr with Jack Whitehall and Rebel Wilson. And I'm on there for about 10 minutes talking about, me being the unluckiest man and stuff. And Alan Carr actually zip wired down the studio to win me a prize. So there's that for Raw. That's kind of in the background. So Garrey Ashton, if you just go Garrey Ashton on Google, you can see it there first. But Garrey is a double R in the E and the Y, don't forget. Just a little one on that. My mum wanted it 2 R's and a Y. Dad wanted it 1 R and an E. And people say to me, don't see it spelled like that every day. And I think, well, I do.
All right. So I got a bit confused at the start. So you're on a stag do.
Yeah.
You're on a stag do and you'd left the stag do. And I take you walking on your own, were you?
Yeah. I'd taken a friend back to the hotel. I've got a friend, Buzz. Took him back to the hotel because he just like, when you're in a group, you're in a party, you're all looking out for each other, really. And my mate Buzz, he just needed to go back to the hotel. He'd had enough.
And then, so you're walking, middle of the night? What? It's dark, I take it.
Yeah, absolutely pitch black.
Pitch black.
It was full moon.
Completely.
But yeah, I've taken him back. meeting up with my friends. I could hear the waves coming in. I thought, oh, I fancy a little dip in the sea and that. So I'm just walking along, not knowing that I'm on the precipice of a 100-foot cliff, and I slipped and fell, and down I went.
Right. Okay. So how long were you down there for?
So it was about, I'll say about 3 hours. I was knocked out for about 3 hours and genuinely got woken up with the tide coming in. And one of the other things that makes it an okay story to tell is I just bruised my leg. That was the only injury that I had. I just got a bruised leg, you know.
Really?
But again, compounded by the fact that I'd fabricated that I only had a couple of beers. It was fine. I'd had about 20.
Yeah. That's probably why you didn't get so injured. Your body was so relaxed that
I know, right?
yeah. And was it a sheer drop then? Because you say you
It
climbed up.
was.
Yeah.
It was an absolute sheer drop to the bottom, yeah. And I remember vividly the fall as well. I say the fall, the wind getting louder and louder. It was the descent was long enough for me to register that the wind was getting louder and louder on my way down. If you know, in my head, I just remember thinking.
So that was the first accident, yeah?
Sorry, no, that was the sorry, and I didn't really timeline it really.
What was the first accident?
Got run over doing a paper round.
You got run over doing a paper round when you were what? How old were you
I
then?
was about 12.
Oh, right. Okay. So yeah.
And then when I was 14, I was visiting a friend in hospital. He wasn't in hospital, he'd been discharged. I was running home for me tea, which in those days was like sandwiches and a packet of crisps. And outside the hospital, there was a dual carriageway going one way and a single carriageway the other way. I literally just didn't even look. I just ran across the road and just got flat out run over. And they actually sent an ambulance out to bring me back in. They rung my mum up and we said, "We've got your son, Garry, here in hospital." And she went, "I know, he's visiting a friend." I went, "No, he's not. He's in." And then at work, when I was about 18, I fell off the back of a lorry. I was pulling a pallet towards the back of a lorry. The strap broke and I just tumbled off and just landed straight on my head, and I crushed the vertebra in my neck, like the seventh one down. In that same job, it was an industrial, it was a production factory. And I needed to unplug something from the other side of the conveyor belt, and I was wiggling the plug, couldn't quite get it out, so put my fingers down to kind of pry it out. But obviously, when you put your fingers down on prongs on industrial electricity and it's still plugged in, you're going to feel that, right?
Yeah.
And the other electrocution, that was a similar thing with the plug, really. The back, it was only a household thing, but I got thrown off the bed. I was listening to my radio because we always listen to the top 40 in those days on a Sunday and that.
The wireless.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And playing, press play and record on your favourite songs, and then try and stop it when he starts to introduce the next track and that.
Yeah.
I think it was like Mike Reid and Tommy Vance was another one. So that was about my era, really. Tommy Vance used to the top 40.
I don't remember Tommy Vance. No, I remember Mike Reid, obviously.
Some radio's playing up a little bit. I noticed that the plug face, I say the plug face, the back of a plug, normal bit you push in, that was sort of dangling off, and the prongs weren't quite in, so I pushed the prongs in, really, and that's what threw me off the bed, because I've obviously just put my fingers on the prongs, pushed it in. I didn't bother putting the back on.
I don't know if it should be the unluckiest man in the world. Perhaps it should be the stupidest man in the world.
You got it. I think you are. And do you know what? I got on some of the online newspapers, somebody did say that. Somebody said, "What a dumbass," or something like that. And I remember reading it and thinking, what a horrible thing to say.
I'm only joking.
Absolutely right, but really horrible at the same time.
Yeah. I don't mean it.
But it's odd. The odd thing about it is, Andy, I feel like the luckiest man alive by nature of so many things that have happened to me in my life. I feel like at times, I don't know if you remember a Far Show character where he would sort of like say, he goes, "So the other day, I was up in the loft having a bit of a sort out, and I come across the original copy of the Bible, which was nice." So there was a character that just did the most mundane things, but it was the luckiest thing, So
Yeah.
So it's little things like I met James Martin on a cruise, and he cooked me dinner for me and the wife at the time, following conversations I'd had with him. I've sung on stage with Jackie Graham, the '80s singer. That was on a cruise. I just happened to get my hand up first to sing with her on stage. I'm singing on stage with Jackie Graham. Obviously, they've been on like the Alan Carr thing, and I was Gosh, what else have I been on? It's not been on. Oh, I've been on like there was a national lottery television program where they used to. It was with Eamon Holmes,
Mm.
and you'd go on holiday and that. And I don't know if you remember, it was called the Jet Set. So you'd go on holiday, right? So you'd win quiz show, you go on holiday, they pull the balls out and that, and oh god, not this week, you know. And then your prize, Andy, was to go on a really, really, really fantastic holiday destination that money can't buy. So if you went to New York, for instance, it's like you're going to New York, Andy, and you're playing basketball with the what they called again, Harlem Globetrotters.
Oh, Globetrotters, yeah.
Can't buy that shit. Do you know what I mean? And then next week you'd be going to Cannes Film Festival, and you're going on the red carpet. What? Like, you know, so each week when you're on holiday, Andy, you'd go up against someone in the studio, and if you won, you just go on another holiday and that. Do you know what I mean? You know, you just literally go round and round and round holiday.
So you won
So,
that?
I went out the first round, funny enough.
Oh, right. Got
But
confused.
you know, I met up with like Graham Norton while I was there and stuff. You know, and it's just like the most. I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. I feel surreptitiously gifted, if you know what I mean. You know,
So
only good things can happen.
were they as a result of the story of you? Or were they just separate to that then?
Sorry, Andy, can you say that
Were,
again?
were, were
Sorry.
they were those the reasons you got on those shows or whatever? Were they all related to the story of the most sort of unluckiest man in the world?
Only the Alan Carr one. They rang me up and said
Oh,
that
right,
Alan
yeah. So
Carr's
the others
like
were
part of it.
just
So
some things that obviously you
got
took
really lucky,
place
mate.
in.
I
Yeah.
just felt really, really lucky. Like, you know, I've just always, I don't know, just sometimes there are just so many occasions where I find myself just in the right place at the right time, and I can't fathom it in my head. Even down to, let's say, with yourself, Andy. You know, so you reach out on Facebook. You're advertising that you'd be doing some filming in painting. I'd not long moved to the area,
Yeah.
and I was looking for extras. And I'm like, yeah, I'll have a little go on that. And this is what I've been telling people. I said, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, then I said, then I'll get an email from Andy saying, I don't want to speak in part on the film. What? Of course I do. What's going on? Like, what? Speaking part? Yeah. Gosh, absolutely. And then, like, next thing you know, I'm on IMDb that you've registered for me, and then it's got 2 films on it. I'm doing another film. What? What are you on about? It's just incredible. It's like I don't know, when I say that the blessed feeling coming from this, Andy, is that I absolutely get in life in general, right? If you want something, you've got to go out and get that shit, yeah. You can be in that frame of mind, Andy, as a person, as I have historically been in the past, where you think something will come along, something will turn up, something will come good. It won't. You've got to really, really go and get it. If I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
to jump in the car, drive to Scotland and that, I'm not just going to drive blindly. I'll find a little route how I'm going to get there and everything, you know. And I absolutely advocate that in life, no matter what it is, if you want something, you got to go and get that thing and be driven to go and get it and stuff, and kind of have little, I don't know, little markers to know you whether you're en route to get that or not, as such, you know. But I've just found that in my life, a lot of stuff, and it's just appeared in front of me, you know. It's extraordinary. It genuinely feels so blessed, you know. And I'm an absolute romanticist at heart, and I don't mean as in like you've got lovely eyes, Andrew.
Thank
Do you know
you.
what I mean?
Only my mother calls me Andrew.
I mean, I'm a romanticist, as in I just believe so many good things are there for having, if you know what I mean. You know, like I don't know, even down to every Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Wednesday. I just think that really could be me that's won the lottery tonight. And then I think about all the things I'm going to do every week. You know, I don't know, really naive, but I like being naive, to be honest with you.
Can I just take you back to when the papers got involved?
Yeah,
Yeah. Were they trying to steer you into certain sources? You said about that with the Sunday Sport.
absolutely,
What about some of the
definitely.
other papers? Were they trying to steer you into sort of certain stories then with?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was like they were. I spent one. It was like 10 years ago. There was a definite kind of ulterior motive to sort of make it a bit more juicy, like, you know, and they were even quoting members of my family that hadn't even spoken to them, like, you know, Gary's ex-sister-in-law has said that she's horrified and that. It's like, you haven't even spoken to her. What are you going about? You're just making assumptions and that. And it was also clear from a lot of the newspapers, because I was in about literally at least between 12 and 18 different newspapers, that some newspapers had just read that other newspaper and just in today's world, just put it into like AI and that, just mix it up and just change the words a little bit.
Yeah.
And I wasn't horrified by it. I loved it, to a degree anyway. To a degree.
And then obviously, what was it like on Alan Carr? How were you treated on there? Was that all right?
Oh, amazingly. So they did actually film about 3 or 4 different people that had unlucky stories, and there was and it was mine was the only one that was actually shown when it came to airing and stuff, and it was all a bit quick, a bit rushed. But one of the things that was concurrent with my stint on the game show on BBC, with that National Lottery game show, I was really shocked a little bit at just how contrived it all is. Even just down to the banter, it was like, so I rehearsed this joke with Eamon Holmes about 6 times. And it was just, he made a comment about my cooking because I really love cooking. And they referred to your application form when they're asking you questions. So Andy, I understand you're a little bit of a filmmaker and that, and it's like, it's only from what you've submitted.
Yeah, of course.
And he said to me, like, how would you describe your cooking, Garry? No, that was it. Sorry. Eamon said, Garry, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you, how would you describe your cooking? You say to me it's something like, it's quite a religious experience. And I say to you, is that because people have to pray for the quality of your food? So when he first said it, I went, yeah. Like 8 times later. And then when you actually go live and he's saying it, you've got and it's like I honestly find that comedy and spontaneity and laughter, it just diminishes each time you have to do it, really. So a lot of comedy writing, when you make references to comedy writers and comedy films, I think that's got to be so hard to have rehearsed that, and what's coming. At the end of the day, every joke, like nearly everything that makes you laugh, it's that spontaneous, it's that kind of something's hit you somewhere in your head that makes you laugh. And then when you got to do it 7 or 8 times to come across as a spontaneous event, I think it's got to be rock hard, Andy. I don't know how you do comedy in that respect, where you're actually laughing.
Yeah. But I take it you went into the green room then for Alan Carr.
Yeah, so I met, right? I accidentally, so I'm going to refer you, Andy, to last week when I spat chewing gum at you, which I'll explain in a moment.
We'll explain that in a bit. Yeah.
So there was a guy in the green room, and he had nobody near him, and there was some other stars in there and stuff. And he looked a bit lonely, really. So I just went up to him and said, "Oh, do you come here often? Like, you're on your own here." He went, "Yeah, I come here every week." And I said, "Oh, are you a bit of like a fanboy and that?" He says, "No, I work here." I said, "Oh, what do you do?" And he went, "Garry, release those big lottery balls." So it was a guy called Alan Denico.
Yeah.
Alan Denico, right? And as soon as he said to me, "Garry, release those big lottery balls," I like punched him in the stomach, not hard. I went, "Fuck me, it's you, look." Like, but I didn't, when you sort of like, you get him in a little,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I was so mortified, like, that again, I didn't dig him hard, but I punched him in the stomach anyway. What's fucking you, look?
And what did he do to that?
He just laughed, fortunately. He was right.
Yeah,
He did
I
it
know. Yeah.
again.
I know what game shows are about. I've done a couple of game shows myself in the past when I was younger, so yeah, I know what they can be like. Did they give you drinks, did they, before you start to soften you up a bit?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. I had a couple of drinks before I auditioned and that, just to loosen myself up a little bit.
Yeah.
It works,
The auditioning process is a bit contrived as well. It's a bit sort of, yeah. They want you to be silly, don't they, really?
Yeah, and I was absolutely surprised. Not surprised when it was explained to me, but again, with the auditioning process, so they would have, so let's say at its peak, that particular show, Andy, would have anything upwards of 50,000 people per series apply, right? So when you was in your days in the force and that, you could say my name's Andy. I'm a policeman from Newcastle, like, And next, what's your name? My name's Garry. I'm a policeman as well. Because people write in and shit, and people write in, "Oh, you got 2 policemen on the same week." Like, so it was kind of like you couldn't have, on any particular week for a series, you can't have more than 2 policemen on, for the whole series, maybe even just one. And of those 50,000 applicants, Andy, about 300 of them could have been policemen.
Yeah.
Because the policeman's been on there, you just can't get on. Why's that? Well, you're a policeman. What? and the colour of the hair, what you're wearing. You have to. I don't know if you recollect from your time, but you have to take about 3 or 4 different outfits with you
Yes.
because you can't all be wearing that. You can't all be wearing the same shit. Because people complain that they're both wearing pink shirts. That I'm not having that. Right in and stuff. It's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. It's understandable.
All right, so you did all that. Did you get any sort of other gains from it as such, or did it peter out a little bit?
Well, I got to do a couple of pilots. One of them just completely didn't take off, but I did actually do a pilot for the Eggheads.
Right, yeah.
But when they're actually filming, because if you do a pilot, you're in, right? Like if you do a pilot, we get you in, like where you can appear on it and stuff. But as it happens, I just had I had just holiday commitments. I couldn't make that particular week, and I did another pilot with Giles Brandreth, and they offered me to be on it. And I said, no, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Because this particular show, Andy, it was you meet 4 other people you've never met before, and you have a subject given to you at the point of filming, and it can be like King John the First, right? And all 4 of you have got to compose a 2-minute presentation on King John the First, and you've got to say keywords to get your points and stuff, but you've got no library, no books, no internet. You just got to share each other's knowledge. And I'm sat there going, his name was John, and he was the first one, and he was king. Well, so when they invited me to be on it, I said, that is next level. Sorry, I can't. I said I can't do it.
Oh, right, okay. So that was a sort of a game showy type thing, was it?
Yeah. I say game show, maybe not in that context, but it was a quiz show sort of thing.
Yeah, quiz show. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, and then between then and obviously when we met, what have you done? Anything sort of in terms of entertainment wise?
Not on the telly, no, but lots of other. I say not in front of a camera. I've done lots and lots of entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that we could broadcast.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, Andy, and it's a very, 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 very typical story that you hear from a lot of people, whereby life just gets in the way. Like I'd got remarried, I'd got 2 kids, my little boy's got additional needs and that, and life just gets in the way really, and you kind of always have those thoughts in your head. I must get online because again, no one's just going to drop you a letter, right, saying, "Do you want to be on this game show, Garry?" You've got to go and get it, right? But and the other thing that you'll be aware of, and as well, just for the listeners and stuff, once you've been on a show of sorts, the impact it has on your ability to get onto another game show is massively increased by that. You'd think that you only get one turn to be on the telly. Like, once you're on, we can't have you back on again. Once you've been on a game show, it tells other producers of programs, etc., right, well, he's obviously auditioned for that and he's been vetted. He's obviously got to be right on camera. He's obviously got to be quite confident and buoyant. In you come, and you start getting the phone calls, "Do you want to be on this game show?" And it's like, gosh, I feel like a fraud. I feel like I've jumped the queue a little bit. So, but yeah, it was just one of those things, Andy, that I just, excuse me, just never got around to. I just never got around to it. Really, really, not sad times, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, obviously I reached out for this film that I'm doing, which is a true story about an MI6 agent. And yeah, obviously I put this call out, and you were one of many people that sort of came back to me. And I answered everybody. I went back to everybody. I said, "Look, this is on. I'll be in touch if there's anything suitable. I'll keep your details." And you got a call from me out of the blue.
I was shocked, Andy, honestly, absolutely shocked. And I think, I can't remember, so don't quote me, but I think you did. One of the things you did ask me was like, "Have I done any other acting?" I think, yeah, little bits and pieces.
You did?
No, I ain't done nothing other than the television appearances that I'd had. So I wasn't a complete fraud. But I was so taken aback, and everything about the experience, Andy, for me, it was nothing like I'd envisaged, really. I don't know. I kind of, so I'm going to go along with it anyway. I'm going to come along and stuff, and you'd ask me to have a shave and that, and I've always got this kind of level of sort of stubble, and my children, like my little boy's 16, my little girl's 14, never seen me with a clean chin.
Yeah.
No, never seen me clean shaven and that, and my wife Claire, I'd shaved her. She said she couldn't look at me she couldn't look at me from there downwards. But yeah, I'll do it. I'll shave it off. Let's do it. If somebody would say to me, "Got a role for you, Garry, but you need to shave your head," I'd be like, all right, I'm in for it. I'm in for it. So yeah, you'd sent me the script. Um, I'd looked at the lines that I had to learn. And one of the things that I found helped me, and I know in a previous podcast with Lee, he was giving tips on learning scripts, etc. For me, what worked for me was to be acutely aware of what the last word is in your dialogue for me to come in. Do you know what I mean? Because and there's almost like no need. There's almost no need. This is how I'd done it for myself anyway. There was almost no need to really deep dive into a lot of your content. It was I'd read it many times, and I would read the stuff that precedes my entrance to kind of get a bit of a feel for where I'm coming in here.
Hmm.
I want to kind of immerse myself in it. Um, but so I'd learned a lot of the dialogue for Johnny, who was obviously playing Andy. And then it just got to that point where I thought, right, okay, I don't really, 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 really need to know verbatim what he's saying to me, for me to then come in. I just need to know the last word of that sentence is my trigger to sort of come in as such. And then come the day, forgot the lot. Literally forgot the lot. And it was when you'd mentioned to me that you were able to, I was able to, with the role that I had as the interviewer, I was able to kind of like refer to my notes. That was an absolute relief for me. Um, and one of the other things that I'd found, and just to kind of assure people that are thinking about putting themselves forward for small roles, cameo appearances, cameo extras, and what have you. Um, Now, forgive this analogy, Andy, right? But whenever I think all men at some point, right, see themselves getting into like pornos, right? And then it's that kind of I would never be able to do anything in front of camera. Everybody's looking at me and that. And I thought that during the filming, I would be acutely aware of a camera at me or a little fluffy microphone down on me and that. But once I was sat down, and the way that you and I'm so sorry, and like with like Erin and Steve and um, sorry, names are starting to evade me already.
Who else was there then? I can't think now.
Um,
Steve, Erin, yeah, myself. What on crew?
yeah, the guy that looks a little bit like Colonel Saunders. What was his name? He was in the film. When he gets, I say like Colonel Saunders. He's got greyish hair, a little beard, and glasses.
David.
David, that's it. Yeah, maybe not so much like Colonel Saunders, but nearly there.
Yeah, David. Yeah.
I just felt like I was with people that I knew, and I felt like there was this assurance that despite my newness, despite my kind of like virginity into it, I didn't feel like I was just a little bit of a bit player. I feel like I was really intrinsic in the film and the scene and that, and I really got a feel. And when you're directing yourself, Andy, as such, you really really get to see the passion and what you envisage, and you just feel like, gosh, I really want to do this justice. And there's kind of no there's also no room for making it your own character. It's not about, okay, well, I've read your script, Andy, I'll get the role, but I'm going to do it all different, bruv. Do you know what I mean? And I think one of the things that's remained constant for me, so with Nowhere Man as well, with Chris, etc., it's just seeing that, again, I use the word passion, with you and with Chris and with some of the other guys. It's seeing that kind of so driven by this, like, it's it's fantastic. I really, really, really want to be. I feel part of it, and I really want to do this as much justice as I can. Um, and and feeling gifted by being part of it, really. And again, talking about, if I was to offer an advice to people thinking about doing it and stuff, we're very very quick as humans to be really deprecating about our ability to do stuff sometimes, and it's, the brain's naturally wired to protect you. So if I think I'm a bit rubbish at it, I can do that. I can be rubbish at it, and then I've done really well because I've behaved in a fashion by which I thought I'd behave. And it's kind of, I don't know. It's we can wear clothes, Andy. You can have like a dozen people saying, "You look really, really nice," but for each of those 12 people said you look really nice, you go, "I think I look a bit of shit, actually." Like, and you tend to forget that the most important feedback you can get is from others. Like, it's even down to, as well, sorry if I'm digressing a little bit, when people go, "Oh, I hate the sound of my voice," and that it doesn't sound like me, and that's just a physical thing. Like when you talk, when you're talking in front of you, Andy, that's like air. The sound waves are coming out through air. Like, when you're talking yourself, you've got vibrations in your skull that goes into your inner ear,
Yeah.
and there's a physical reason you sound different than you do on microphone. So it's like when people say, "I don't like the sound of my voice," now it sounds weird. It's like, but that is how you sound, though. That is how you sound. You hear yourself differently. But I just, when people go, "Oh, I feel like I've trod in shit," or something, like, or I feel like a bird shit on me, or a seagull shit on my shoulder or something, because I just feel so lucky. It's just, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, they're going to sort of say, "Okay, thank you very much for your, we'll let you know about, if there's another one coming up."
Well, I mean, obviously, all with filming, all things are different. Obviously, with high production sets and all the rest of it is completely different. Again, it's we're independent. We do indie film sort of thing, and it could be completely different on another set or another film. I think we try to make it as relaxed as possible, and yes, get the job done. But I'm acutely aware of if people don't know anybody, that's hard in itself. And if you've never done anything like that before, you feel like a fish out of water. So you just try and make it as comfortable as possible. Because I've been there myself when I first started, and I'm not saying I'm super experienced now because I'm not, but it, I think as long as you treat people fairly and make it as easy as possible for them, then they'll shine through. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, where we probably have this discussion, but we forget when we're adults, don't we? When we're children, when we're growing up, we make mistakes all the time, don't we? That's part of growing up. You always make the mistakes, make the mistakes. As we become adults, we start to be aware of mistakes more, or more afraid of making mistakes. And that's why and then we don't put ourselves out of our comfort zone. And I suppose filmmaking or getting involved in something new like this is very much getting yourself out of your comfort zone. But you don't improve unless you do it and make mistakes. And when you make mistakes, you always remember, don't you? You always remember, and you don't do it again, generally.
And I would say, and I say this to people in my day-to-day work and stuff. So I'm a mental health first aider for my work. I work for a global company. I'm a mental health first aider, and I always say to people that, like with me, for instance, and I talk about me because, sorry, I say I talk about me. What I mean is, I'm really clear that when I'm telling you about tips and advice and guidance, I'm talking about what's worked for me. I'm not saying what will work for you is this. You need to do. Do you know what I mean? So with me, I absolutely see myself as like a lump of shit on a potter's wheel, not a lump of shit, maybe a lump of clay on a potter's wheel, and I'm forever nearly, and I'm becoming more and more beautiful as I get older and that. And every now and again, it just goes. But you know what? You can save this. You can save it, and I feel like I'm forever a piece of art, Andy, on a potter's wheel. Just every little spin on that wheel, every little dribble of water, it's just that little bit better and everything. And yeah, every now and again it flops down and bits fall off and stuff, but you just keep putting it back on. You keep going for it, because at the end of the day, you're going to get to a certain point. You're going to look at that and you think, "Do you know what? It's fucking amazing, that is."
I'm going to use. I'm going to use that analogy. I like that one. That's one of the best analogies I've heard. That.
Just, yeah, go for it, man. I part of my character as well, and I say character in myself. Without, I'm not going to deep dive into a lot of darkness, but I've suffered quite a lot of adversities in my life. Really, really, really deeply, deeply life changing adversities, and I think to myself that where I've kind of longed to be like an actor or something like that, it's because deep down I've always just wished I was somebody else, if you know what I mean. And it was only until I was about 46, 47 that I embarked upon a mental health journey. And it was over a 12-month period. Like, I'm 55 now, right? I feel like I'm about 8. You know, I've I've managed to, and again, it's taken me all of this time to, all this time, it took me till I was about 47, 48. to really, 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 really get on top of stuff. But I feel like Menton, I feel like a Benjamin Button. You know, I've got to this point where I can actually look in the mirror and think, "You're all right, mate. You are." You know, for all of those years when you kind of again you're a bit down on yourself and stuff. Through work, customers I deal with say, "Oh, you're really enthusiastic, guys." Because I was only born about 8 years ago. Literally, oh, kind of everything is fantastic. You know, again, Paul Whitehouse character, you go, brilliant. Isn't life brilliant? Aren't old people brilliant? In the summer, they wear overcoats and scarves. Brilliant, Um, and that's me, Andy. I'm just I'm really, really lucky. I'm blessed to have faced so many challenging scenarios that have brought me down so many times. I'm blessed to have overcome those and not forget about them. But I feel like I celebrate every day. I've completed that thing. Do you know what I mean?
I agree. I think it feels like I've had the same sort of similar scenarios. I think, and it feels a little bit like a second life almost.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm,
Nothing to lose.
yeah, exactly. So right, okay. So you did your first bit. You were an interviewer. You this role of interviewer on the film, which is called An Ordinary Guy,
Yeah.
and just for people out there, it's a true story about an MI6 agent who back in the 80s. Called Andy Gilbrook, and obviously I'm trying to recreate the story through film. There is a book out there about it called An Ordinary Man, Ordinary Guy, should I say? Obviously, you did that role. It was a scene where you're playing one of the interviewers for young Andy when he was being recruited for MI6, and then you were so enthusiastic. I said to you, "Oh, well, I'm doing loads of stuff. If you fancy doing something else, yeah, I'll do something. Yeah, you just let me know."
Oh.
Like a cat on hot bricks.
Yeah.
But well, I've got my mate coming down. We're doing some filming next week, which was just gone. And you had a different role. Tell me about that.
So, proceeding going there, I wasn't really furnished with a great lot of detail. I just got to rock up really, just in that really short space of time working with you and your colleagues and stuff, I just felt really comforted to not have to be really, really hung up on. Right, I need to know what's happening. I need to know what I'm doing, what I'm wearing, what I'm saying. Because I just go along. Everything will be all right. Everything will be all right. Um, and I popped to the station to pick up Steve and Erin. Because I just wanted to, they could have made their own way. There was other people. No, I'll pick them up. I'll pick them up. um, yeah, so we was at the industrial estate, and that's when I first met Chris. And I didn't even really have a clue what the bloody film was about. I just know that I kind of had to be there. Really, it was clear, though, mind you, you had kind of preceded my attendance with, I needed to look a bit menacing in that.
Yeah, I said you're going to be a heavy, didn't I?
Now, this is a funny thing, right? So, menacing, I thought about this preceding the podcast, actually, right? Menacing, Andy, in my day to day life, yeah, is like literally, there's me there. Menacing is like somewhere underground. That's so far removed from my character, I'm the least menacing person going. But it turns out I can look a bit menacing. And I've had people that have met me or in social circumstances, in work circumstances, that once they got speaking to me, they thought, "Guy, I never wanted to talk to you. You look like you're going to knock me straight out on that." And it was so many people would say that to me. So I just thought, okay, well, I'll just be my menacing self then, really. So I'll do a little menacing look, Andy, because I was having to hold this gaze at you, and it was difficult at times because I just wanted to burst out laughing. To be fair, so I'm gonna do my menacing. All right, hang on. Right, bear with me.
You look confused. Yeah, that was more confused. It worked on the night.
Sorry, yeah. So I had to look menacing in that, and then I thought to myself, gosh, I'm really bloody good at this because I'm not menacing at all. But there was a guy there, Jake Saxon, Jake and Lee both said, "Oh, you look hard as fuck, mate." And Chris said it to me as well. He says, "I wouldn't mess you. You look hard as fuck." I went, "I'm a fucking pussy," honestly, And then, so I've done my menacing thing. I'm staring at you. I'm staring. I'm just staring and staring. And then there was, then Chris had come up with this idea where I'm chewing gum, and and he sort of said, I know it started off with a spit, I think, didn't he? I think he
Yeah,
actually
yes.
said, just like through like an act of disdain for Andy, like just before you go to spit, like and I could have done that, right? Because I got a lot of sinuses and stuff, and anyway, then it was get switched up to chewing gum. So we're doing our first sort of like run out of the scene and that, and I'm chewing this chewing gum. Beknownst to me that I was to spit it on the floor. I just spat it right at you. I think it alarmed you, and they're all laughing, like, and I'm just looking at going, "What? I thought I was just supposed to spit at him, spit me chewing gum." I don't think it stuck to your jumper or anything.
No, I didn't know.
So then, yes, we then had to switch over to start spitting on the floor between your legs. Really, excuse me.
So
But that was fun.
So the filmmaking process for you, obviously, I presume it's quite new in terms of seeing, the amount of angles and things like that. What was it? What you were expecting, or
Beyond what I was expecting, absolutely beyond. I kind of half envisaged, because of my television appearances and that, having like a number of cameras and a number of cameramen, and and you kind of know which one you have to look at certain points and stuff. And I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form as a derogatory statement, but I was surprised at how minimalistic some of the equipment was. I thought it'd be on like big old things like News at 10 war correspondent, big shoulder camera things, and things on wheels, and you'd have like a little railway track around the scene, and you wheeling it around and everything. But but the equipment you were using, for me, having seen some of the little some of the still even just some of the stills, Andy, but also some of the little teaser trailers and clips like that, I'm thinking, how do you get to that, what I can see on the telly, from that in Paint and Library, or that on the industrial estate? It's just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal.
yeah,
It's blown me away. I think it's amazing.
that's filmmaking. Obviously, those big cameras, big rails, and all the rest of it. Yes, you will get cameras like that on big movie sets and things. But obviously, we're indie. Those big cameras, mate, cost anything from 40 grand upwards plus.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So go on.
The other thing the other point I did want to get across was that what the commonality between both sets. I really felt like yourself, Andy, and the other guys on set, and equally Chris from filming last week, just such sincere and genuine gratitude for me giving up my time. Felt weird for me, because I'm like, I'm more grateful than you. Almost like I'm trying to do it like trump your gratitude. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
grateful for me. You've got no idea how grateful I am to you. No, I'm grateful. No, you hang up the phone. No, you hang up the phone.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just lovely. It's so lovely, Andy. I can't think of a better. I can't think of a more. I'm normally all right with my diction and my vocabulary, but I can't think of a better word than it was just absolutely bloody lovely. It's so nice, And it's like to feel like I've been an infinitesimal part in that, with the passion that I've seen displayed, and the resilience that you must go through at times, when things might not work, or you can't get something to happen at a certain point in time, or you haven't got the funding to do this and that, but you just keep going, right? Because I've got a goal, I've got somewhere to be, and I'm just going to keep going for it. And that, to see that, it's so addictive. Just want to be part of it all the time. Well, I want to have another go. Because I love the vibe, I love the feeling, I love walking away thinking, done all right now. I did really, I'm a little bit there, and pride, I think, as well. Just a certain amount of pride, and people like yourself, Andy, and Chris, etc. You're facilitating that for me. Uh, you know,
Well,
I
it's
know Chris has got a tattoo.
yeah.
So I might get like a little. I don't know. I might get like Andy Blythe.
No, don't get that. No. Don't get that. Yeah, but it's a collaborative process, it's great when people get on. Sometimes on sets and things, it can be quite stressful, and people can be a bit bitchy, but fortunately, or hopefully, we generally, the people we try and work with, that doesn't happen. And for me, it's very much about enjoying the process. It's probably more stressful for me and Chris when we're trying to do it, because we're sort of organising it all and what have you. But yeah, it's always a relief in some ways when it's finished and you get everything done. But yeah, it's quite addictive.
Yeah, and the other not fallout again. That's the wrong word to use. But the other thing that's happened since I've shared it on my own, like my couple of my socials and that. I'm getting people. Oh, Garrey, get me in. I can do that. I'll get it. Get me in. Get me in. Like I know everybody well enough to sort of bring people in. Yeah, Andy, I've got some people to bring with me. I've got my cousin Lewis Ashton. He's exactly the same as me, Andy. Like in his appearance and that. Other than he's hench. He's like a hench staff. Like if he was a dog, it'd be like really hench staffy.
Yeah.
But for dog owners that have got staffies, them staffies are lovely, lovely, lovely creatures. Like they're absolutely beautiful things, beautiful people, and that. So he would kind of absolutely benefit the kind of role that I had and stuff. And I've got other friends. Oh, Garrey, get me in. I can do this. Oh, I can be evil. I can be funny. I can be sad. What? I almost feel like I'm having to let them down. Like I'm not in a secret society.
Well, there might be opportunity because, like I say, I'm going to continue with stuff. There's going to be where I need people. I might go, Garrey, do you know anybody that can help with this or wants to come along? Might need a few extras or yeah. The thing is, mate, it's great because people are given their time for free. Yeah. And obviously there's a lot of people want to get paid and, they want their expenses and things like that. But I'm not in a position to do that. It's difficult.
Sorry, Andy. So for me personally, I feel like I need to be giving you money.
All right.
Okay. No, generally, and again, Chris, I can only sort of quote yourself and Chris at the moment as such, because obviously I've just done the two films there as such. But from my own experiences, genuinely feel like, I need to give him my own time up. Have you got any idea what I'm getting out of this? Like, this is not me giving up my own time. This is me being presented with an opportunity to do something that, again, I would like, Garrey, you need to pay to subscribe to do this. How much is it? I do it. But, I just do. I don't care how much it is.
That's good. That's passionate, though, isn't it? That's passionate about it.
There is that, definitely. I'm really genuinely from the bottom of my heart. Like, for the small amount of time I've known you and that, you just brought such a new dimension to my life. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I'll be forever grateful and I will always give up my time for you forever, Andy, honestly.
All right.
I'm pimping myself out a bit there too much. Because I was hoping you might say to me, what sort of roles are you looking for, Garrey? I'd be like, well, I don't know, rom-com, drama, horror, musical, comedy. And I was going to rattle off about 40 different things. I don't mind. I'll do any of it, really.
Mate, I appreciate you saying that. That's really nice of you to say that. So, you definitely want to do more then. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, definitely, Andy. I've not got any aspirations other than just come along, spend time with you and the guys, do a little bit of something on set that eventually makes it onto a screen. That one day something's going to hit a sweet spot and it's going to absolutely blow up. And just to know that I've been part of that is absolutely all worth it. And that thing, Andy, as well, like that romanticism in me, like, I envisaged, Andy, right, and this is going to sound really odd, right, but I envisaged getting a phone call from actual Guy Ritchie, right, and Guy Ritchie says to me, "Go, I saw you on Nowhere, man. Yeah, looking a bit menacing. Yeah, you want a film, Garrey? I'm going to pay you the big bucks and that." And I was going to say to him, well, if you want me on the film, I've got crew. I've got Andy, I've got Chris. And I was going to name check everyone I work with. And I was going to say to Guy Ritchie, Guy, it's me and them or not me at all. And I don't care how much you're offering. Sorry. And I was that scenario was playing in my head for about an hour and a half.
Really?
Of like all these things that I would do where I would just say, sorry, Guy, if I can't bring these people on, you can't have me. Sorry, Guy. Anyway, back to reality.
Okay, then. So, what would you say to anybody that's, I don't know, looking at doing something like this or never done anything like this before? What would you say to them?
So one of the things I would say, and it kind of supports one of your previous podcasts with Lee, like, I've got a full-time job. I've moved to Paynton. I do a lot. It does not encroach on my time. It will only really encroach any of your own time if you allow it to encroach. You can either spare the time or you can't spare the time, as such. So there is very much the ability to kind of bring this into your schedule of things, so to speak. And I would also say that I would imagine that for most people, the thing that stops them from giving us a little go is what I'd mentioned earlier on, that thing of, oh, I wouldn't be very good at it. Just go for it. Like, you get so much help. And at the end of the day, just recognize that the people that have asked you to come and help, yeah, if they didn't help you on the day, then it's going to be shit, really. So they're keen to get out from you, and you spot certain nuances in people's behaviour and their character, and every now and again you'll get a little like, "Oh, Gary, you've got lovely blue eyes." And then you're sat there like, "Oh, hi." That's a bit camp, isn't it? It's just kind of, you got absolutely. It's a corny saying, say you've got absolutely nothing to lose, but if it even tickles your fancy a little bit, you'll never know, like, and I'm not a great believer in cliches, but if I ever believe in one thing, it is that saying that, it's better to regret doing something than forever regret not doing it at all. And you're not going to die, right? You're not going to die, right, or catch a serious illness by trying.
Or fall off a side of a cliff, hopefully.
Or off the cliff, yeah, equally, yeah. And the best thing is, if you don't tell anyone you're going, you haven't got to report back.
Okay, on that note, we've said you're the most unluckiest guy. I said you're the most jokingly stupidest guy. I would actually say you're actually one of the nicest guys I've met. Yeah, very, very genuine. Yeah, I think people will love listening to your story. So I appreciate you coming on, mate.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
If you stay with me for the moment, anyway, everybody,
Your number,
thank
Andy,
you.
yeah.
What's
Ring
that?
me. You got me. Ring me.
Okay, that was Garry. Thanks very much for watching the podcast, guys. Please do subscribe and like, and we'll see you on the next one.